Some say the true measure of a hunter isn't the kill, but the silence that follows. The absolute, suffocating silence of an empty forest after the predator has moved on. It was an inescapable truth, a grim premonition that settled like a shroud over the stadium. The snap echoed, sharp and final, as a blur of orange and white exploded from the line. The opposing quarterback, a beacon of youthful defiance all season, now looked like a trapped animal, eyes wide, nowhere to go. There was a moment, a suspended breath of pure dread, where the entire world seemed to slow, the air thick with anticipation. The pocket, once a sanctuary, had become a cage, the walls collapsing inward with brutal efficiency. Two hands, strong as steel clamps, were already there, not just reaching but claiming. The ball, a precious jewel, was ripped free with a ferocity that defied physics, a violent divorce between arm and leather. It bounced once, a lonely orphan, before being scooped up by another hungry defender, his path to the end zone unobstructed, inevitable. The roar that erupted wasn't one of mere celebration. It was the thunderous declaration of a storm reaching its devastating peak. It was the sound of a dynasty being crowned through sheer, unyielding force, the definitive, terrifying moment when every shred of the opponent's hope dissolved into the chill night air. That single, terrifying play was not just a turnover. It was a public execution of an entire season's aspirations, the ultimate, chilling climax of a defensive masterpiece. From the very first whistle, the intention was clear, unblinking, and brutal: to dismantle, to disrupt, to utterly suffocate. The Denver Broncos' pass rush wasn't merely an aggressive front. It was a coordinated, relentless wave of terror designed to erode an opposing quarterback's composure, then his confidence, and finally, his will. Every snap was a new assault, a fresh deployment of human battering rams driven by an insatiable hunger for the backfield. They didn't just rush, they hunted. Von Miller, a predator in cleats, moved with a balletic violence, his first step a blur, his hands an intricate dance of swipes and rips designed to dismantle offensive linemen before they could even set. DeMarcus Ware, the seasoned assassin, operated with surgical precision, his power and technique a masterclass in controlled chaos. Together, they formed a symbiotic tandem, each anticipating the other's moves, creating impossible angles of attack that left even the most formidable protectors bewildered and broken. It's said that during practices, Wade Phillips sometimes had quarterbacks wear weighted vests, not to make them stronger, but to subtly train his rushers to anticipate the slower escape of a truly panicked pocket passer, refining their instinctual pursuit angles. The pressure wasn't just physical. It was psychological, a constant, creeping dread that began to manifest in hurried throws, missed reads, and a palpable sense of anxiety that permeated every offensive huddle. Their pursuit was like a rising tide, steadily encroaching, threatening to drown any offense brave enough to step into their watery grave. But the pass rush was only half the trap. The other half was the impenetrable web woven behind them. The no-fly zone wasn't a boast. It was a stark warning, etched into the very fabric of Denver's defense. Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. patrolled the perimeter like sentinels of doom, their coverage so tight, so suffocating, that receivers often found themselves running routes to nowhere, their every move anticipated, their every intention thwarted. They didn't just cover receivers. They shadowed their very souls, turning routes into dead ends and throwing lanes into minefields. The statistics painted a grim picture for any quarterback attempting to challenge them. A high completion percentage was an illusion, because the completions that did occur were often short, inconsequential, and always followed by the immediate, jarring crunch of a defensive back laying a punishing hit. Whispers from the practice field claimed the no-fly zone cornerbacks, Harris and Talib, had perfected an almost telepathic pre-snap read, often shifting coverage responsibilities based on subtle, almost imperceptible twitches from opposing receivers, making them seem omnipresent. Safeties like T.J. Ward and Darian Stewart were the final enforcers, their presence in the middle of the field a deterrent to anything crossing the seams, delivering bone-jarring blows that rattled teeth and confidence alike. This secondary didn't just prevent big plays. They manufactured turnovers, baiting quarterbacks into desperation throws that ended in interceptions, or holding coverage just long enough for the relentless pass rush to finally collapse the pocket. The two forces, the crushing front and the impenetrable back, created a perfect storm of defensive dominance, a system so airtight, so utterly suffocating, that breathing room became a luxury the opposition could never afford. While the defense carved a path of destruction, the Broncos' offense operated with a calm, almost surgical precision, a stark contrast to the maelstrom they unleashed. They were the methodical cleanup crew, the patient executors, understanding their role perfectly, to capitalize on every defensive gift, to control the clock, and above all, to avoid the catastrophic mistake. Peyton Manning, in his final chapter, wasn't asked to be the gunslinger of old. He was the wise general, orchestrating drives with veteran savvy, making the smart play, not the flashy one. The running game, led by C.J. Anderson, became a blunt instrument, grinding out tough yards, wearing down a defense already demoralized by the relentless defensive pressure. Every first down felt like a small victory, chipping away at the opponent's morale, stealing precious seconds off the clock, and giving their own ferocious defense a chance to rest and reload for the next assault. They didn't need explosive plays to win. They needed efficiency, execution, and an unwavering commitment to the game plan. Turnovers created by the defense were immediately converted into points. Short fields transformed into scoring opportunities, demonstrating an offense that understood its place in the grand design. They played with a quiet confidence, knowing their defensive brethren were unleashing hell, and their job was simply to collect the spoils, ensuring every act of defensive violence translated directly into a tightening grip on victory. This wasn't accidental chaos. It was meticulously engineered dread. The victory was a testament to a meticulous preparation and an unbreakable unity that transcended individual talent. Wade Phillips' defensive scheme was a masterpiece of aggression, constantly putting players in positions to exploit weaknesses, but it was the team's unwavering belief in that system, and in each other, that made it truly unstoppable. They practiced with an intensity that bordered on gladiatorial, forging bonds of trust and resilience in every drill. Every player, from the biggest lineman to the smallest cornerback, understood their role, embraced it, and executed it with a singular purpose. Peyton Manning, in his twilight, would often hold private, unscripted film sessions with defensive players, not to dictate, but to offer a quarterback's perspective on opposing offensive tells, forging an intellectual unity rarely seen between units. This wasn't just about X's and O's. It was about a collective mindset, a shared understanding that their strength lay in their cohesion, in their ability to operate as a single, terrifying entity. They were a brotherhood forged in the fires of expectation and doubt, hardened by every hit, every sack, every critical stop. This was a team that had looked inward, identified its core strengths, and then unleashed them upon the league with terrifying precision, leaving no room for individual ego, only collective triumph. And so, every doubt that had been whispered, every skeptical glance, every dismissive prognostication was not just answered. It was obliterated. Critics had questioned Manning's arm, the defense's ability to sustain its ferocity, the team's capacity to overcome a season marred by offensive inconsistencies. But this Super Bowl wasn't about flashy statistics or individual heroics. It was about an unyielding spirit, a dominant defensive philosophy, and a team that embraced the gritty, physical nature of football to its absolute core. The victory silenced the naysayers with an undeniable truth. Strength, preparation, and unity trumped every perceived weakness. The opposing quarterback, once the darling of the league, was left battered and bewildered, his confidence shattered, his season's narrative hijacked by the Orange Crush's relentless assault. The scoreboard reflected not just a win, but a statement, a declaration that the old ways, the hard-nosed, defensive-minded grit could still conquer the most potent offenses. It was a victory built on an impenetrable wall, a suffocating embrace that left the competition gasping for air, their what-if scenarios reduced to hollow echoes in a now-silent stadium. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was filled with the roar of a champion, the sweet sound of dominance, and the quiet satisfaction of a predator at rest.